Hi, my name is Molly-Tastic Treves. I'm a Year 2, Level 3 Animal Management student. There are a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to being deaf. To a hearing person, you may not understand why the person in front of you is using the Notes app on their phone to communicate with the shop assistant. It may not bother you at all, or it might. I'm an 18-year-old deaf person and I have been deaf for nearly my entire life. I know nothing different. A long time ago I had a certain level of hearing and now I don't. That is the way it has been and the way it will be for the rest of my life. When I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. This is a rare type of children's cancer that affects the nervous system. In order to go into remission, I had to endure harmful adult-tailored therapies to kill the cancer cells inside my body. Within the first few weeks of receiving chemotherapy, my mum started to notice I had lost my hearing, and this meant I was given hearing aids in order to help me cope with my deafness. I use the word deaf because it means something to me. Deaf by definition means lacking the power of hearing or having impaired hearing, which is a very helpful label to someone like myself. I know the people who have chosen to use the label hearing impaired, which is absolutely fine because at the end of the day it is their disability and only they can choose how to label it. However, I have had people in the past use certain phrases to me who were not hearing impaired, such as, "Why do you call yourself that? Well, you're not profoundly deaf, so you shouldn't call yourself that. You can hear me perfectly fine, stop pretending," or "Why do you wear those things in your ears?" I will say this now, if you have used or you still use these phrases, stop. These are offensive, as it implies that our disability does not exist. Even phrases such as the ones like, "That's a strong word, why do you label yourself like that?" "Well, you heard me a minute ago," and "Stop ignoring me." All throughout the education system, I have been a victim to discrimination by teachers and students. These subtle or not so subtle words may have meant nothing to you, but they mean a lot to someone like myself. I have something that is defined as high bilateral sensorineural hearing loss, but to shorten it, I say I am deaf. It is much easier as I do not owe anyone my diagnosis. This type of hearing loss implies that I have lost a range of noises that are categorized as high frequency. Noises such as birds, insects, bells, fire alarms, fireworks, and even certain types of music I cannot hear. However, because I wear hearing aids and speak fluent English, people will automatically assume I can hear just fine. Reason is, I can't. It is a common misconception that because I'm wearing my hearing aids, my deafness must be cured, that will never happen. My hearing aids are designed to pick up the noises that I can currently hear, as well as adjust the ones I cannot. It does not mean I have regained all of my lost hearing. The way they work is by picking up sounds through a small microphone and amplifying the noise into my ear canal. This then feeds through to my cochlea where my brain registers the sounds. Sometimes they do not reliably pick up certain noises, so I have to guess what certain sounds may be like to a normal hearing person. My hearing aids make other levels of hearing work overtime in order for me to effectively hear. It is exhausting, but I have to wear them, otherwise I would not hear anything very well. To put it in simpler words, just because someone is wearing a hearing aid, a cochlear implant, a Baha, or speaks perfect English does not mean that they can hear just like you. It is an assumption everyone makes, but you have no idea how tired I am of re-explaining this to people. Yes, I wear hearing aids with bright blue mold because I want people to notice I am wearing them. By people noticing my aids, they may think, "Oh, they're deaf, I will help them." It is a very small thing, but it does help an awful lot. I also have something called a Roger mic. This device connects to my hearing aid and enables me to hear more than what my aids pick up. This mic is very handy as when I'm in lectures, I can give it to the tutors and hear directly what they are saying. This means I'm not distracted by background noise and can focus on the person speaking. However, there are a few teething problems when it comes to this device. It can lose connection very easily just by the tutor turning around to face the wall. It can cut out sentences, which means I miss words very easily. And in addition to that, my hearing aids can run out of battery, which means they power down and leave me struggling to hear. While I wear my hearing aids, I do something called lip reading. As the name implies, I read people's lips when they are talking to me. This I find is much more reliable when it comes to hearing, as I can accurately piece together what that person is trying to say. However, this can become ineffective when people don't look towards me when they are speaking to me, cover their mouth, or even have a different lip pattern to what I'm used to. Another way I communicate is using British Sign Language. BSL is a type of language for deaf people wherein which we use our hands and lip pattern to communicate more effectively. It does not rely on any speaking, just actions and facial expressions. I like to use this with people who are deaf, as not many people who can hear use it. However, it requires a lot of energy for you to use, and for someone like myself who already has numerous health issues on top of being deaf, it can be difficult. In addition, I have always had people assume that because I am deaf, I must know every word in the BSL dictionary. I know some, but not as much as other people do. I have a small range of vocabulary which allows me to sign effectively to people, but not enough to hold a 1-hour conversation. I will explain something here as well. All throughout my life, people have assumed that because I have hearing aids, a mic, or a note taker, that must mean I am coping fine. This is because there are no other issues that I have to deal with. This is wrong. All I have known is that one of my senses have been taken away from me, which means that the rest of my remaining ones have to work overtime. I remain on a constant alert all the time and do not relax due to this. It takes me longer to process what I am learning, thus requiring more energy in order to learn my course. While I may have the top grades, I'm not getting them easily. My memory is quick to forget things, which then makes it harder to listen to what people say to me. Plus, if someone's speech is not directed towards me, I won't listen, which is why it can be easy for me to become easily distracted, lost, or stressed in college. As well as that, I also suffer with sensory issues, meaning that some of my other senses, such as taste, smell, and touch, get overwhelmed easily. This can be affected by almost everything I do, including college. Too much noise or stimuli means I can shut down in front of everyone. I would also go as far to say that just because I have support doesn't mean that I find my life any easier. It is very difficult to fit into an establishment wherein which you are the odd one out. Even ordering a tea from the campus Costa is difficult enough with the noise in the foyer, let alone being deaf. All I can hear is the commotion of students, the coffee machines, the music on the speakers, and a very small voice saying, "What can I get for you?" Now imagine being deaf and having to take everything people say and do in order to fit in as a normal human being. It's tough, isn't it? However, since coming here, I have given advice to the hearing community on how to become deaf aware. First of all, do not assume what type of hearing loss we have. Unless we specifically tell you, it is not your business. Us being deaf means that we require more support in order to help us be independent. This support is actually what helps us to become an adult and live our lives as effectively as possible. By you assuming what type of level of hearing we have automatically separates us from our peers. It puts us into a box that may prevent us from being ourselves. Another thing to remember is that all deaf people will communicate in different ways, so find out how each specific person communicates best. No two deaf people are the same in the way they communicate. This means you have to speak louder when in their presence or get an interpreter to sign what you say. In addition, quick ways to address people are easier, such as tapping on their shoulder. However, this may make them jump, so find other tactics first. Knock on the surface near them, flick the lights on and off, stomp on the ground, or write on a paper to communicate. All of these methods effectively get that deaf person's attention. The reason why is because the top 4 are using their remaining senses in order for you to get their attention. By stamping on the floor or tapping on a surface nearby them, they can feel vibrations, thus allowing them to give you their full attention. Now, if you're teaching a deaf person, you may automatically assume that because they're turning in good work, they must be fine. Wrong. This is one of the biggest assumptions you can make about a deaf person, is that they are coping with college life. When I first came to college, I was terrified. I was trying to keep up with lectures, homework, and people I did not know. My senses were overwhelmed to the point that by the time I got home, I would break down and have a meltdown. I was not doing okay. However, because I put in and continue to outstanding work, all of my tutors thought I was fine. The only time they noticed something was wrong was when I started to take sick days in order to cope with the workload. I will say this now, that due to some form of societal pressure that because I am deaf I must not be good at what I do, and I felt this need to thrive. I wanted to turn in outstanding work to prove to myself and others that because I was disabled, it did not define my academic life. However, it messed me up a lot. I started to become more burnt out and fatigued to the point I was going silent on hours on end. I was overworked and needed help, but because I put on this fake smile and turned in distinction graded work, no one was worried. The only people who saw that something was wrong was my LSAs. They were the only people that I felt comfortable enough to be able to truthfully explain what was going on inside my head. With their help, I managed to find local help and support, and I was able to talk to. It was really hard, but I learned that asking for help was okay. So I say this with the utmost truth. Please check in on your deaf students. They may not seem like they are struggling, but I guarantee you if you ask their interpreters or LSAs, they will tell you how they are feeling. It may take the deaf person a while to open up, but once they realise you are there to support them, they will tell the truth. Lastly, I want to suggest that a method on becoming more educated about supporting the deaf community is asking the deaf person yourself. It is a great thing that training is happening to teach people how to behave effectively and communicate around deaf people. But sometimes asking firsthand to the deaf person, how can we support you, is better. Each person will have different methods in order to work in the classroom, which in turn will help you become more aware. By enabling someone like myself to explain it in front of you how our deafness works and what things can affect and will help broaden your knowledge. Then by taking on board their advice, you can go forward and help other deaf people to thrive in a college environment. Good tips to support a deaf person is making sure the room you are speaking in has good light. This enables them to lip read. Speaking clearly at a normal rate, do not elongate or shout your sentences. Make sure there is minimal noise in and outside the classroom. To address them, make sure that they are aware of you. Tap on the desk they're on. Double check they understood the work that you have given them. If they don't understand something, walk them through it slowly until they do, as it may take them longer to process. Include them in group work, unless they prefer not to be, and give them work that is tailored to them. Put on closed captions or subtitles on any films, videos or podcasts you share in the classroom. Or, when presenting on Zoom, enable closed captions. This will help the deaf person to access a live transcript of what you're saying if there is no lip reading available. Communicate with the deaf person effectively. Do not tell them off for changing their hearing aid batteries during a class lesson. Do not refuse to wear them like they have given you. When you wear a mask, make sure the deaf person can hear you. If they can't, switch to an alternative such as a clear mask or take off the mask you are currently wearing. Prior learning is also key to our survival in lectures, as when a lecture is taking place you have two sources of stimuli, and these are the lecturer and the PowerPoint. If we can learn to take key notes beforehand, it will make much easier time for us to pay attention to the lecturer alongside the presentation.